Welcome to the Unleashed Life, where ambitious women take control of their mindset, money, and mastery. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker. Let's get unleashed. Hi, this is Dr. Renée Baker, and I want to welcome you to the Unleashed Life. This is the podcast for bold thinkers, visionary leaders, and everyday people who are ready to stop performing and start living. Here, we talk about what it takes to break free mentally, emotionally, financially, and we start stepping fully into our life of purpose, peace, and personal power. From money and mindset to mastery, this is where it all comes together. And today, we're literally shooting from the moon and bottling brilliance here on Earth. Rada Griffin is a senior software engineer and Alabama's first certified Black woman winemaker. I mean, come on. Who says you can't live a multi-passionate, fully unleashed life? I mean, this woman is brilliant. We're talking science, legacy, and the grit that it takes to build your own lane. Welcome to the Unleashed Life, Rada. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm so excited.
I mean, I'm excited because not only are you're just wicked smart, just brilliant, beautiful, bold, and you have really, I mean, when I talk about unleash, I mean, you are such a great example. You're engineering by day and you're building your wine brand at night. Just tell us about
Literally,
your
yes.
journey. Yeah, like tell us about your journey.
I mean, where do I begin? I've been an engineer my entire career, over 20 years. I like being an engineer. I love being an engineer because I get to use my analytical side. But then when it comes to a winemaker, I get to use my emotions, which I can't use a lot in engineering because you have to be very strategic and very spot on because things have to be correct and the numbers have to be right. There's no room for emotional thinking.
Right.
Because we're trying to put people on the moon, like we're responsible for lives. So, but for me to find that balance and not be such a robotic person, that's where the wine comes in because I get to use my passion and my emotions and my love, and I pour all of that into the winemaking. So it's a good balance.
I love that because you're passionate about the work that you do at day and the work that you do at night. But what drives you to keep those passions alive? Like, how do you balance? Because for some people, that takes a lot of brain power.
It does, but it's a different type of brain power, if that makes sense. At the core of me, I'm an artistic person. I love to create. I'm a creative. So when I switch from engineering in the day and switch over to my passion at night, it's more of a release. It's a decompression because I get to be soft. I get to be in my soft girl era. I really do. And I really just get to create and not be restricted by boundaries and schedules and all of the day-to-day things that take place with being an engineer during the day, that I have to stay really on a strict regimen during the day. I don't have to do that at night. I can just be me. I can just create all of the things that I've been daydreaming in between, working on things, for being an engineer. I get to put those things into action at night. The nighttime is when I come alive. That's like my passion. That's when the creative juices get to flowing. You know, I'm up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Then I got to be up at 8 for work. So, but it's a fun insomnia for me. It's going to catch up with me sooner or later. But for right now, I enjoy it. And it's really just that balance that I get to just express myself in a way that I don't get to do, for 8, 9, 10, 11 hours during the day. So
yeah, and that takes a level of discipline and dedication that most people won't understand. You're basically taking the discipline of the work that you do and the level of dedication and the desire to create, right? And the fact that you get to that you have such a creative outlet that you enjoy is something that most people don't understand. So we'll talk about you self-care, but part of that is just the fact that you are doing something that you love and you don't have to stay in one lane. And so let's
Right.
talk about that because a lot of people choose a lane, and I'm not
Hmm.
gonna choose a lane. I'm like, the whole highway, whatever we want.
Right. Whichever lane.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But what gave you the courage to say, you know what? I'm going to be a software engineer and I'm going to be a winemaker. Was it a moment that you decided to just go for it and pursue your passion of wine?
Well, I used to live in California before I
Mhm.
moved back to Alabama. So, surrounded by wine country, I got to experience wine really early on. And so, when I moved back to Alabama, I wasn't surrounded by that. And so, I needed to bring California to me. And I did that by, creating this wine label. I just, it wasn't anything I planned. I really kind of just woke up one day and was like, you know what? You've been studying wine for a while, start a wine label. Like, why wouldn't you? And I've always been spontaneous in my creativity. Like, I'll just think of something and then I'm just like, I'm gonna try it. Like, what can it hurt? Like, either it's gonna fail or it's gonna work. And then I'm gonna switch over to another lane because I have all the lanes. But
That's
yeah, it kind of just started from there. I used to be a private chef. So I've always had a love for creating things and a love for food and wine. And so creating a wine label just came natural to me, just like being a chef would. It's that same concept from, farm to table to bottle. I mean, vine to bottles. It was a seamless transition. Wine to me is very familiar, just like food. So I didn't find it intimidating or, something that I felt like I couldn't do. For years I felt like, why hadn't I done this sooner? So yeah, like anything, it's about at least starting it to see if you can do it. And I just feel like
mhm.
when your dreams are there, when they're embedded in you, there's a pull at you to do the thing that you've been called to do. So that's kind of how I jumped out into
I
it.
I love that. I mean, and I'm completely aligned with that way of thinking. And we don't have to wait for permission. You add the spark, and oftentimes, some people will think about what they can't do, so that idea, that dream will come up, and they overthink or overplan and delay the brilliance. But I love the fact that you moved and you
Yeah.
decided to just go for it, and it worked and taking
Yeah.
your understanding of science, right? Because you're an outlier in many ways. Not only are you, the fact that there's a lot of underrepresentation when it comes to science and STEM
Right.
and or STEAM as they call it now, but just the fact that, and then wine, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about your wine label, the wine brand that you created.
Yes.
Tell us the story behind the name Anissa
Okay.
Wakefield Wines. What's the
Okay.
story behind the name and what was the brand about? Let's talk about.
So, Anissa Wakefield Wines. Anissa is my middle name, named by my mom, and Wakefield is my dad's last name, my fraternal last name. So it's just a fusion of family. Anything that I do, I really think of either my family or the culture. So I'm either doing it for one of those two
Mhm.
reasons or for both. So in this instance, the wine is really for both. And the name comes from family. And me doing the wine and starting the wine label really is for the culture because at the time when I started making the wine and I started my wine label, there wasn't much representation for us in the wine community. And it's very challenging for us to break into this white male dominated industry because oftentimes we are given the pushback as if to say we don't belong. But, we've been drinking wine for generations and we've been making wine for generations and spirits and all other types of alcoholic beverages. It's like Uncle Nearest, like it's that same type of culture to where we've been behind the scenes doing the work, but not in front getting the recognition. This wine label is really for the culture. It's really for that little black girl, little black boy coming up, that wants to jump out into any industry that seems or deems to be not for us. And so it's really for the culture. And I do it for the love of that.
I love that. The fact is, there are there could be barriers that could stop someone. Right? So you're talking about heritage. You're talking about resisting, right? The fact
Right.
is you're going to push through no matter what. you're building a legacy. And I love that you're unapologetic about bringing the culture front and center and keeping it aligned with who you are and what you represent. And when I see your bottle, right, and talk about your beautiful wines. There's just beautiful is the best way I can describe it, because I remember when I had my first taste of it, it was in front of you, like it was literally live, and I was like, I just need a minute because it's so
Yeah, and that's
stunning. And the fact that you did,
no, I was going to say that's
no, go ahead.
the response that I want to elicit from people when they drink the wine, because that's what I've put into it. The same emotion that I
Right.
put into it, I want that same emotion out of it when people experience it. And so to hear you say that is, mission complete, because that's what I do it for. And so, and I hope that every bottle that I make and everyone that gets to experience my wine, because it's an experience. My wine is an experience. It's not just wine. It's a whole experience. And I purposely, poured my blood, sweat, and tears into it for that fact. And so that I hope that every bottle that people get to experience, they have that same reaction. Not to toot my own horn, but kind of, that's the reactions that I've been getting, and I'm so grateful and thankful for that, because that makes me feel like, I'm doing it right. I got it right. And this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, absolutely. And you had a global audience was there when I first had your wine. And the fact is that you can tell that you really are thoughtful and strategic around that wine. And the fact that it's like I said, you're kind of like the hidden figure in wine, right? So you go and you do your work in missions and getting people into space, and then you are sitting and deciding that the labor of wine in your spare time,
Right.
as if the work that you do is not hard enough. You're like this hidden figure, but you've created
It's
such a
not hard enough.
beautiful wine despite the challenges. How do you navigate those challenges and overcome them to keep showing up with your experience in the bottle?
For some reason, I was born with quite a bit of resilience. I don't really know where it comes from, except that it's just in me. And so I've been told by my mom many times that as a little girl, as a young girl, that I didn't really take no for an answer. Like, either I questioned it or I found a workaround. And I think that's kind of where my engineering side aids me when it comes to the challenges of, the wine industry, and still pushing forward, because in my day-to-day job, my job is to problem solve. And so I
Right.
use that in the wine industry. And when I come up against these challenges and barriers, I'm like, okay, now how do I fix this? I've been told no, or I've been told, well, we'll think about it. And that just doesn't sit with me. My next course of action is, okay, what's the next thing? What's plan B? What's plan C? How can I get around this? Because I'm going to do this. So it just really comes from that embedded resilience, and that embedded not taking no for an answer.
And that's an important mindset shift that is critical, especially when you're facing challenges in the world they're gonna tell you no. You're like, no, well, I'm gonna figure it out. And sometimes the biggest barriers that we face come from us just accepting what the status quo is. And
Mm-hmm.
you've broken that barrier. And what did you learn? What have you learned about yourself in the process?
I've learned that I am really getting back to the old me. And I say the old me, and I mean that in terms of, right when I graduated college. When you graduate undergrad, you're out in the world for the first time. You're chasing down these jobs. You want to get into corporate America because you want to make these, great paychecks, and you want to build a house, and you want to have the great car. And so as you get older, and as life, you lose that motivation, because you are a different person. You're not chasing the dream anymore. Now you're kind of like looking for that stability, and figuring out where exactly you need to land and where you need to plant yourself in your foundation. And so I'm really, trying to get back to 21, 22-year old, like super motivated, super charged up, ready to take on the world person, but for wine, because I've accomplished that,
Right.
in my career. And so now I want to take that same motivation that I had for being an engineer when I first started out and apply that to being, the world's greatest winemaker, because why can't I be?
And how do you said you're reclaiming yourself, you're going back to that old version of you. How do you stay focused? Like, how do you keep going and you're rooted and grounded in your purpose and vision? How do you do that? What are some of the mindset shifts that you have to do just to keep going for yourself?
Well, I think it's really about understanding who I am as a person now and what my foundation is. Going back to that old person in terms of, reclaiming that motivation and that zeal for just wanting to get out there and do doesn't take away from the fact that I know that right now, today, I have a great foundation. I'm very rooted and grounded in myself, in my accomplishments, in what I know I can do and what I've done. And I think the thing that keeps me there is the fact that I look back on my accomplishments. Because sometimes you have to remind yourself of who you are, and those accomplishments and those
Right.
things and those people that are around you to do that are there for that reason, for you to look back. Because times are gonna, those hurdles are gonna come, and there are gonna be times where you feel like, man, did I make a mistake? With jumping out here doing this. But then when you look back and you read the letters that people send me, through the mail and say, your story has motivated me and I want to get into this. And I'm so glad I came across you. And you're such a role model and a mentor to people. Those things help me propel and keep moving forward, because I have a lot of those accolades and, people that are cheering me on, and my support group is very good in making sure that I, celebrate myself, and that I know that I'm in a great place and I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. And that's especially important, as a woman, and as a Black woman, to just remember, like, when doubt creeps in, you have to sometimes remind yourself that this is bigger than myself, right? And
Right.
you, in a way, become the blueprint for people, and a mirror for what's possible. So a mirror for possibility and opening up doors that maybe people thought they would never open. And you
Right.
mentioned, having a strong support system. What would you say to someone who was trying to walk this path or a path alone when they're facing with these type of barriers and challenges?
You got to, I would say, first make sure this is something that you love, because if you don't love it, you're not going to be motivated to stick with it. And loving it does not mean that it's
Right.
not going to be hard, but within the core of you, within yourself, if you go to bed at night and you aren't thinking about this thing that you want to do, the love is not there. And you're not going to be motivated to stick with it when these challenges come, because they're going to come. Life is going to be life, and you're going to be presented with so many different barriers and challenges that the only thing you're going to be able to use in those moments is that I love this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is my purpose. This is my destiny. So if you're not grounded in that thing, and if it's not something that it's a part of you, you need to make sure that thing, whatever that thing is that you want to do, is a love. It's a part of you. It's you in that essence. Because if it's not, you're not going to have anything to fall back on to push you when those challenging times come.
Yeah, and that's so real, because sometimes success can be lonely, and failure can be lonely too. So we have to be sometimes our biggest advocate to say keep
Right.
going, and when you love what you do, much easier to do that.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about the wine. Let's talk about the wine. Tell
Okay.
us about your wines.
So right now I have 6 wines on my label. I'm working on a 7th one to be released next year. I just got my license to sell. I've been waiting on this for forever in Alabama, which goes back to that workaround I was talking about. I didn't get it in Alabama. I actually got it in California, which makes sense because that's where I produce and bottle my wine. And so I've got my license for the state of California, and I've also got my license for my winery. So I now have a winery in Napa. And so I'm the first certified Black winemaker in the state of Alabama to have a winery in Napa. So I'm so excited for that. And just really, you heard it here first because I haven't announced that anywhere. So I'm
I'm
so
so
excited
excited.
to share that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so excited to share that with people and to let people know that, I am up and running and now I can ship and sell. And so as soon as I get, my e-commerce and my shop finalized on my website, I'll be taking orders and I'll be shipping wine out. Right now I'll be shipping within the state of California, DC and Florida. And then I'll add more states as I go, as the interest grows in other states. Those are my top three states for right now.
I'm glad Florida is on the list
Right.
selfishly, but you said it's okay, but that's so major.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I have a winery. Yeah.
Worked so hard and the workaround became the way in. What did that moment for you? You have pushed through. You said you were working through breakthroughs. What was that moment for you when you're like, you know what? I did it. I did it. You're making history, by the way, Rada.
You know what? And it may be weird. It didn't, I don't know if it just hasn't hit me yet because I haven't announced it. Maybe that's what it is because I've just been holding it, um, close to me. I f- Actually, I felt relieved because I've been working so hard to get the license. And, it had been going on 5 years that I've been trying to get the license in Alabama and it just wasn't working. And so, I should have felt very happy, which I do, at the core of
Right.
me, I'm happy, but I really felt relief because I had been like it had been so hard to get this done. And so it was just a sigh of
Right.
relief. So now I think it comes to celebration time where I can really just absorb it because I don't think I've absorbed it yet. It kind of feels
Right.
surreal. So I think I just have not let it sink in yet that this is actually real. And so once I do that, I'm sure I'm going to feel totally different. But for right now, I'm just relieved. Like it's a weight that's been lifted off my shoulders because it's been very stressful. So I've been making this wine and spending money and bottling wine. I have all this wine that I hadn't been able to sell, and so now I can finally, sell my wine and really, consider myself a winemaker because I think I really hadn't considered myself that without my license. So I'm excited. So I'm ready to jump out here and
Amazing.
start getting it to the people and getting the feedback so I can know, what to make next and what people like and, start doing my tour and, my tasting tour and all of those things that I had to put on hold for the last 5 years. So I'm excited to get going on those things.
Well, we're listen, I'm gonna say we in Florida state. I'm speaking for the entire state right now. How about we start here? I'll
Right.
be the first one signed up, you know that. But I'm just excited for you, and it's such a big history making moment, right? To be able to first be the first Black winemaker from Alabama. You're now opening up the winery in Napa. So how will you celebrate it when you open up one of your wines? Which one are you opening out of your six babies?
I'm excited about all of them. I think I'm going to start with the 2022 Cuvée number 2
Hmm.
because it's themed around the summer. It's such a light and refreshing. It's a demi-sec, so slightly sweet for the sweet wine drinkers. I'm not a sweet wine drinker, so I'm not going to be making a lot of sweet wines. But this one is really, for the hot summers and even hotter summer nights. And so it's just a fun wine that I think people are going to really, really enjoy. So I'm ready to get that one out. And then I'll probably circle back around to my second one. My very first one I made in 2018 that I did not make for sale or release to the public. So I'm really starting with my
Hmm.
2020, my 2021, which is the one that you got a chance to experience. And so I think I'll circle back around to
Yeah.
that one towards the end of the summer. I don't know, cause that one is very much it's my baby because it's a very sophisticated and luxurious wine. I really made that for people who are, bosses in their lives and, don't take no for an answer and get out here and do the things that they want to do. That big deal when you are just celebrating apologetically. It's that wine that
Mhm.
you opened when you've landed at your moments. And so I may do them in parallel because they're two totally different themed wines and the concept behind them. I think I can totally do both at the same time. So I'm going to start with those two. And then I'm going to start with then I'm going to add my sparkling rosé towards the end of the summer.
I'm
And I'm not
excited
going to
about that.
discuss that one yet because that one's very, very near and dear to me. And I have a whole release campaign for that one coming up because it's going to start a series within that campaign with the next 3 wines. So I'm excited to bring that to everyone. But I will say, if you are a lover of the 90s, this wine series is going to be for you. So I won't share too much about it just yet. It's going to be very exciting.
Well, that's very that this is all of this is exciting, and I'm really excited about the fact that you have the strategic rollout for your upcoming campaign, and the anticipation is building, and you're doing such a great job balancing, the creative and the business. So let's just take a little bit of time and talk about the business of your wine entrepreneurship. In and of itself is not an easy journey. You've invested a lot of your time and resources into creating this experience of wine. What would you say about the business of wine for those that are listening?
It's not a inexpensive journey. It's very costly. I feel like the wine industry, along with the food and being a winemaker, to me are the two most expensive industry as far as like, someone opening their own restaurant that you can jump into. And so I've been self-funding my wine. And so this year, now that I have my license and I have the winery and all those things set up in Napa, I'm going to be branching out into, other type of funding to secure because, it's very expensive. And,
Yeah.
I'm chipping away at my savings. And so I would like to get out of my savings and start letting the wine, kind of pay for itself. So I'm looking into those type of, resources and avenues when it comes to the business side of the wine. But, for the most part, as far as, the wine sells itself, I have to create it in a way that it sells itself so that I'm not so bogged down with doing so much, marketing and advertising that I was doing when I first was, setting the business up. I'm trying to let the wine speak for itself and carry itself. And so I think, the way that I do that is that I keep making great wine and I keep, coming up with these specific themes and, concepts that I want the wine to be attached to. And so I have to keep it interesting. And I think I do a really good job of that. But outside of that, it's just the funding that kind of takes a toll.
Yeah, you've invested in your passion, and you've taken all of your expertise, you've created these experience. So if you look ahead to the next 5 years, Rada, what is that? If you're manifesting this moment right now, what does that look like for you? Where would you like to see? Like, just teleport us to 5 years from now, and what does the Rada experience look like with your wine?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I kind of hate this question only because I've answered these questions before, like 5 years ago, and I'm doing none of those things. I've done none of those things that I said that I was doing in five
Accountability, Rada.
years because I'm such a day-to-day, moment-to-moment person. And as a creative, I think a lot of other creatives that, it's kind of what hits you in the moment. It's nothing that you really, you can plan, you
Mhm.
can set the foundation, sure, but what kind of evolves, you really can't plan and you really can't foresee or kind of foreshadow what that looks like. But I'll take a stab at it. Let's see, in 5 years. Definitely want to have more wines on my label. I'm saying things that I know that I'm going to be able to accomplish in 5 years. I'm being very
That's right.
general. But yeah, definitely want more wines on the label. I would like to be at that point, shipping and selling wines internationally. Um and in 5 years, like I really want to, I have this dream of going over to Champagne and making a champagne, a sparkling wine out of that actual region, to have it certified as, a champagne from that region. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm pushing forward towards. So it probably didn't give you what you
And I think
wanted,
that
but
that
that's
is
what I'm gonna leave it.
no, but that makes sense because creativity doesn't necessarily have to follow like a script, right? You get to
Right,
decide, and the fact you could just imagine a world where, you know what, I'm just going to keep creating more, and you're going to be fully free, fully aligned, and fully unleashed, and that might look different. And the good thing is, it could be more intuitive than
right,
necessarily a prediction. So I think
right.
that, it's amazing to be able to you answered it in the best way, and I love that you're creative, right? Like there's you're analytical and you're creative, and I'm the same, and that's not a lot of people. Like I'm finance and marketing, not a lot of people can do that, but I love that it's more intuitive than predictable, and I think that that
Yeah,
is you you're doing the things,
yeah. And a lot of people
and
don't
that way
know
I
that
can keep you accountable.
a lot of people a lot of people don't know that, outside of my engineering degree, I do have a business degree as well. I have a business management degree as well. So I'm very good at
Right.
business and managing business, and making business do what it does. But the engineering also helps with that. It helps with being on track, on schedule. It helps
Right.
with discipline. And so I get to bring that discipline side from engineering over into the business management side. And, it works well for me that way.
Yeah, and you have so many attributes that come together that, not only are those attributes helping you to make wine, but it's also helping you create and live a life that you have chosen, leveraging your passion and your creativity. And now you said that you live moment to moment, which is great, and your creativity isn't always something that you can plan. But if you can, one of the questions that I ask all the guests is about, this unleash moment. And if you
Mhm.
imagine that you're fully aligned, fully free, fully unleashed, what does that unleash moment look like for you? Maybe it's something from the past that, that just broke the mold for you, or maybe it's something that you think about that's fully free. But what does that unleash moment could be or has been for you?
I think that unleashed moment for me will be when I can be a winemaker full time, where I can devote all of my time to this one thing. That's what the unleashed life would look like for me. That I would be free to move about in the wine industry in the way that I know that I can, and that I've been longing to do. I'll leave it there without saying
We
too
are we
much.
are sitting. I love that, Rada, because you are truly living proof that you don't have to choose between science and goal, creativity, your career. You can be structured and spontaneous. You're building
Right.
legacy and creating history on your own terms, and the fact that you do it with such elegance and such innovation and such heart for the culture is
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. And I always laugh because you could be launching rockets or creating rosé.
Or both
It
at the
doesn't
same
matter
time, or
because
putting the
you're
rose on the rocket. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
which is, but, and so, I mean, think about that, right? I mean, who can say that they did that in a day, right? So you just
Right.
are a reminder of also what's for us doesn't miss us,
Right.
especially when you're
And
staying in motion.
right. And I struggle with that a lot because, when the story came out a few years ago about me being, the first certified Black female winemaker in the state of Alabama, I was not prepared for the responses that I got, and a lot of opportunities that came my way I had to turn down, and I really struggle with, those missed opportunities. But I love what you said just now, that whatever opportunity is for you is not going to miss you. And so I really had to change my mindset, and really, open my mind up to say, those opportunities can come back around. That's not, one and done. And so I really had to shift my perspective when it came to a lot of the things that I felt like I missed out on because I wasn't ready. And so, but that goes back to that engineering discipline, because when I did miss out on those things, the first thing I said was, you know what, now you got to get ready and stay ready so you don't have to miss out on those things again. So I've worked really hard to just be ready for when those opportunities come. And so I think that's one of the,
But that,
yeah, go ahead.
but I love that about your story, but because it's also you're not chasing every opportunity. So it's also
Right.
alignment. You say, "Oh, I wasn't ready," but it's also alignment over urgency, and I think that that's a powerful lesson in and of itself. Because sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do isn't to say yes. Sometimes it's not yet.
It's not.
Because
Yeah.
I truly believe that it's not gonna miss you. What's for you is for you, and sometimes you have to
Right.
protect your peace and your position for yourself in order to reach your purpose. So I think that
And
that is a
sometimes you
powerful
have to
lesson in and
know.
of.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to know and be okay that you aren't ready, and that,
That's right.
don't jump into something knowing that you're not ready for that. Because sometimes people will accept things, or we'll accept things because the opportunity is there, knowing that we're not ready for that. And so I'm proud of myself. I'm very self-aware to know that, I'm not ready for that. I may be sad about it later, but in the long run, I know that, I made the best decision because I know I wasn't ready.
Yeah. And sometimes, I'm always like, oh, we gotta you go for it. Sometimes you jump when you're not ready, but that might not always be the best thing. It's the permission to honor
Mm-mm.
your pace, protect your own path, and to be
Right.
ready when the door opens when it's time.
When
And
it's
it's
time. And you'll know
you're not
that.
running
You'll
from
feel
it.
it.
You're preparing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And as you feeling it now, are you feeling like your time is coming? What are you feeling now?
Definitely do. Definitely. Only because I feel like, I'm more prepared. I'm more
Mhm.
strategic in making sure that, whatever is printed, whatever I produce, whatever I share with the world is authentic and it's true to myself. And that's what I really love about my label and being, the face, and the name of my label is that I have creative control. I get to determine where my wine goes and who it goes to and how it's perceived and how it's represented. It's not just me putting it in the grocery stores and, people trying to guess, if this is a wine that they need to purchase or not. I have the control over, where it's sold and who it's sold to, because I get to create that narrative and I get to control that. And that's very important to me going forward.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that that's so powerful, and the bridge to leading and owning your own brand and leading it with intention. So you're not just producing wine. You're protecting your story. You're making sure your standard is also there, and
Right.
you're leveraging your experience and all of the lessons that you've learned. And I love that you've built something that's fully reflective of you, especially in a world that will
Hmm.
sometimes tell us that we have to shrink or compromise. And that I think that kind of ownership is the real power play. So as we
Right.
pivot,
And my wines reflect.
I can hear you. Your wise
Yes.
reflect.
No, I was gonna say, my
So
wines reflect different moments of me and different, moments in time and different things that I've experienced. And so that's where you'll see a lot of the names and things and design of the labels come from, because I'm multifaceted. There are many different, dimensions to me, and I like to show those to the world through my wine.
and I think that is powerful in that we all have different seasons. So one of the opportunities that we have is to be able to tie all of those different things together, because then each bottle isn't just a product, it's a moment, it's a memory, it's a message, and you're letting the world see all of those different dimensions that you have through your wine. So that doesn't make it just art, it also makes it part of the legacy.
Right. Yes.
And I think that that's such a great part of Rada's story. So what I'll tell you is if this conversation moved you in any way, make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave a review and share it with someone who's ready to step into another layer of themselves. So often we think that we just have to be in one lane. And Rada's story shows us that there can be different layers of who we are and what we can represent, and we can pour into ourselves and still be able to pursue our passion. So if you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who is ready to lean into their purpose and their passion. I'll share all of the links in the show notes so that you can learn more about the wine and order the wine. And I want you to know that no matter what area that you're in, and if you're sitting in a season where you don't think you're ready, own it, step into it, and what's for you will not miss you. And as always, remember, the best is yet to come. Thank you for joining us on The Unleashed Life. I hope today's episode has inspired you to break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivating a mindset of abundance and possibility. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and join our vibrant online community to share your own unleashed moments and connect with like-minded individuals. Until next time, keep breaking barriers, embrace your beautiful, authentic self, and live life unleashed.